Impact silver is a very simple story. We find silver, we develop, and we produce. And not a lot of companies have done that, and we've been doing that successfully for the last 15 years. We've incurred no debt, and we've had a range of production from 600,000 ounces to 1 million ounces. And we've been fortunate enough to generate operation cash flow, which has allowed us to only raise money 5 times in the last 14 years.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, still at the Vancouver Resources Investment Conference. Excited to catch up with a good friend of mine, Jerry Huang, that it's been nice getting to know you over the past couple months. Jerry is here with Impact Silver, although before we get into the profile, one of the things I've noticed is that I walk around here, I see you know everyone, the way you interact with people, which is a big part of this mining industry. And so with all that said, Jerry, it's a pleasure to have you on here, and perhaps could let folks know a little bit more about the company.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you for the introduction and obviously the opportunity to work with you guys at Arcadia. We have a lot of common friends and mutual colleagues in the mining business. Impact silver is a very simple story. We find silver, we develop, and we produce. And not a lot of companies have done that, and we've been doing that successfully for the last 15 years. We've incurred no debt, and we've had a range of production from 600,000 ounces to 1 million ounces. And we've been fortunate enough to generate operation cash flow, which has allowed us to only raise money 5 times in the last 14 years.
And perhaps you could talk a little bit about the projects once you raise the money, where you're going out and digging, and how that's all coming together.
Okay, for sure. So Impact Silver is based in Mexico. We have a large tract of land, just over 210 kilometers package. Formerly, it was owned by Peñoles, which is one of the biggest miners in Mexico. So we've inherited a lot of that major infrastructure that usually smaller companies have to spend tens of millions on. So if you look at our balance sheet, I mean, we recorded the assets at over 50 million, and we certainly didn't raise 50 million. We've raised just under 37 to date, but we generated over 60 million operation cash flow, right? So it's quite impressive for a small company, let alone a major company, to even have that kind of size of operation. We're based conveniently 2.5 hours southwest of Mexico City. Since we've been there for the last 15 years, infrastructure has only improved. It's an easy drive from the Mexican City airport. In terms of workforce, we're surrounded by great communities, a lot of them work nearby. We have over 220 employees right now, working 3 shifts. We have 2 mills. One's on operation. On the north, it's called the Guadalupe. That's our main production center. We surround that mill with 4 to 5 different projects at different time. At any given time, Chris, we're also drilling to develop and push out the resource. On the southern portion of the project, we actually bought a project which had over $20 million spent. That's a VMS project with over 70 million pounds of lead and zinc and just under 7 million ounces of silver resource, but has a 200 tons per day mill. So if silver goes up, we also have that capacity to expand very quickly.
Yeah, and Jerry, actually, you mentioned something else I've been thinking about there. Our friend Rob Kainz of Gold Silver Pros, one of the smarter analysts I've been fortunate to have on my show recently, mentioned something that I think, obviously, I'm a big silver fan, a lot of the people at home, and Rob was mentioning you have one of the highest leverages to the silver price, and perhaps you could comment on that a bit.
Definitely. Yep. Thanks for the reminder. So Impact Silver is probably the purest silver producer out there, with 90 to 95% of our revenue attributed to pure silver. So we don't report an equivalence. As you grow, it's inevitable that larger companies and mid-caps have to acquire non-silver projects. They produce more gold and more lead zinc, and they convert that to silver, right? So gold right now is 90 to 1. So if you produce 1 million ounces of gold, you're essentially producing 90 million ounces of silver. So you're seeing companies report that, and you're seeing companies change names even, like Silver Wheaton to Precious Metal Wheaton. It gets incrementally much, much harder to grow. We're sub-million ounces. We see ourselves as one of the best leveraged plays out there. In the last 3 years, we've seen two occurrences where when silver went up from 2016, from 11 to 23, during the Brexit and Trump time frame, our stock was up 12 times when silver doubled. So that's 6 to 1. Recently, 4 months ago, from August to December, we saw silver go from 13 to 18, 19. Our stock was doubling, and silver was up 30%. So again, that's about 6, 7 to 1 leverage. So you can basically think that for every dollar silver goes up, we're going to make $600,000 to $1 million extra to our bottom line without any changes.
So, especially if my analysis turns out to be right one day and all this short paper these banks sell gets unwound and we have a higher silver price, you guys would be at top of the list to look at in that environment.
Definitely. I mean, Chris, back in 2011 to 12, if you recall, silver got up to as high as $49 an ounce. Rob has been following us for a year on Seeking Alpha, and now his new site, Gold Silver Pro, and he's seeing the wave, and he's been able to time the market very well. Back then, Impact was almost $3 a share, but we were making $7 to $8 million a year net income, no deductions. Again, on a much lower production, on much lower grade. So we're now averaging close to 200 gram per ton at the mill, and we're pulling out drilling results in the area at Guadalupe over 1,000 gram per ton. So in very impressive grades. We're just scratching the surface. The area has been in production, as I mentioned, for 500 plus years, and there's over 5,000 plus workings that we're just able to find, develop, and work on in terms of production.
Yeah, and Jerry, something we talked about a little before, which I appreciate you addressing because we get a lot of feedback on the show. One of the comments, someone was concerned about the cash burn rate. And again, something I like to hear is when companies address the concerns. And any comments on that?
For sure. We have been losing a bit of money last year because of falling silver prices. We adjusted accordingly by lowering our production. And rather than focusing on ounces for ounces' sake, we focus on profitable or at least break-even ounces. So in the last 2 quarters, you would have seen the grade go up. The production number went down, but our numbers are EBITDA positive. Operation cash flow is now positive. In addition to obviously combat cash burn issues, we were able to raise just under $6.7 million last year to obviously bolster our balance sheet. So on the balance sheet right now, we have $4.5 million last quarter, and again, as I mentioned, EBITDA last quarter was just over $300,000, and with our operating cash flow earnings at the mill, just over 300 as well.
And in an upcoming year, any key hurdles of things that you're looking for that could lead to even more success, or any risks that are keeping you up a little bit at night?
For sure. I mean, obviously, the price of silver is what we're always watching. We obviously believe silver is undervalued. We're seeing it much higher, and as a result, we'll see the share price much higher. But in terms of operations, I mean, silver prices are far out of our control. But as we have all seen, there's a lot of lawsuits and hubbles about the J.P. Morgan, the COMEX. In the morning, we all see silver planking, and it typically ends on a down day if there's no bid to cash it. So, these things are becoming more and more relevant and more visible. There's less opaqueness on a lot of these things. As we tell investors, I mean, if it's possible for HSBC and a cohort of banks to fix LIBOR, that's like 1,000 times larger than the silver market, then certainly maybe a conspiracy theory there is not far off. But we focus on our business at the end of the day, Chris. I mean, if we continue to generate operating cash flow, find great assets. I mean, we're drilling for gold 10 years ago in the Gold Valley de Oro. We were sampling 6.5 gram per ton gold. I mean, people know Impact is a silver company, but we also have a lot of lead zinc and a lot of high-grade gold. We're just scratching the surface. Last year, just to mention as well, a notable client of ours, we signed on Samsung from Korea. They're also interested in production financing. They've done a few of those. We actually just sell it a concentrate on a month-to-month basis, but when the time comes and the engineering works out, or we want to bring another project to production, they're there to pre-buy next year's production. We do lose the upside, so that's always a hedge, but immediately we can finance something very quickly because of that trustworthiness, and they don't work just as with anybody. We're the only 3 companies last I checked in Mexico and South America with a deal with Samsung from Korea.
Jerry, I appreciate what you mentioned there because, again, it's easy for me to talk about manipulation of the price, and yet you guys have company to run, so figuring out how to deal with the environment we have, I think, is a big step. And in the meantime, I do have some fun plans of shedding a little more light on these things that are going on and maybe poking the banker bear a little. So I appreciate that you're doing this and keeping things going, and not the easiest environment, but exciting what could happen going forward. Perhaps in wrapping up, you can just let folks know how they can reach you, get the details and all that good stuff.
Definitely. So Impact Silver can be found at www.impactsilver.com. Our ticker on the TSXV is IPT. On the US ticker is ISVLF. So that's Ian, Sam, Victor, Larry, Frank. And also even on the Frankfurt, we're listed under IKL. So we're certainly accessible. Phone number is 604-664-7707, or just find us on Twitter at impact_silver.
Jerry, I appreciate that. And like you said, you are accessible. It's been a pleasure getting to know you these past couple months, and look forward to following your success.
Thank you, Chris and Yara, for the interview, and go Arcadia Research. Keep up the great content.
Thank you, sir. So that is today's episode. I do thank you for spending some time with me and hope you enjoyed it. If so, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.